Now we're spread out all over hell's half acre. Go ahead, brother. Tell me about the Persian infiltration of our government.
Yeah, I know you're sitting down, but you're probably going to need a couch after this one. Look, I laid it out in my op-ed last week. The groundwork about the intentional intelligence failures of the Biden regime has led to this World War IV, and I promised the War Room Posse I'd come back. I'm just finishing the op-ed right now that lays out what I'm going to tell you right now. First ever heard preview. The intelligence decisions by the Biden administration reprioritizing away from the southern border, away from terrorists, away from Iran, away from China. Do you know who they're being made by? There's one individual in the White House National Security Shop, head of intelligence programs. His name is Maher Battar. Maher Battar. Yes, remember that name. He is solely responsible for prioritizing what collection efforts on intelligence or tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 for President Biden. Why is this guy's name important? Well, one, he used to work for Samantha Powers, but let's put that aside in the United Nations. Two, we just found a photo of Maher Battar recently wearing Palestinian garb, raising a hand behind a picture that said, "We want Jewish apartheid." This is the guy in charge of intelligence operations for the United States of America. That's step one. Step two, Robert Malley, Biden's number one envoy, the guy that's supposed to be keeping us out of war in Iran, had his clearance, security clearance, suspended by Chris Wray's FBI, of all people, just 2 months ago. You got to ask why. They won't publicly release it. Well, let me tell you why. Because a individual named Arין طباطبایی, who, by the way, is currently running our Special Operations Office at the Department of Defense, was installed there by Robert Malley. Yes, the former presidential envoy to Iran installed this Iranian national to that position in DOD. And do you know what she did in 2014? She emailed the Prime Minister's office in Iran, the Foreign Minister, Javad Zarif, and asked for permission as a U.S. citizen to take a trip on behalf of the U.S. government. This individual is still employed at the Department of Defense as the Assistant Chief of Staff for the Special Operations Office. The Iranian regime has infiltrated the Biden administration. We have to find out why Robert Malley got booted. We know this has to do with this lady in part. But do you think Chris Wray's FBI would suspend his security clearance and remove him from his post if it wasn't something totally cataclysmic? This is what I'm talking about. We have to put intel in its place. And these people have been installed by our enemies to distract away from protecting against American priorities on the border and taking out the CCP in Iran. And now they're in the house.
Hang on. Go through all three again and the positions they're in. These are not random grundoons, right? When you go in these meetings, they got 50 people. These are players. Give me the billet and the person and a problem with them, Cash.
Maher Battar, the head of intel programs in the National Security Council. He sits in the White House and is responsible for all of intelligence collection priorities in the United States of America. This guy is the one who we now have, and I've posted on Truth Social, a photo being pro-Palestinian and standing in front of a picture that supports the apartheid of the Jews in Israel. Oh, I forgot to tell you this about him, Bannon. Maher Battar was general counsel to Adam Schiff when I was doing the Russiagate investigation. This Dune authored the Schiff memo. And then Robert Malley, Biden's presidential envoy to Iran, suspended by the FBI because of a security clearance issue, has now been taken off the case. And Arין طباطبایی is the assistant chief of staff to the Department of Defense's Special Operations Office. She is the one directly communicating with the Iranian Foreign Ministry.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, those three.
That's it.
Cash. How many times do you have senior level guys, senior level personnel directly from the president that have the security clearance pulled? How often does that happen?
Well, it happens to us, but never by Chris Wray to a Biden administration official. So you got to ask the question, what the heck are you doing? And why isn't House Intel all over this investigation? Why haven't they subpoenaed Wray and been like, wait a second, you got to tell us why this guy, who's the number one Iranian diplomat for the United States of America, has been suspended? It's like the story just disappeared. And how is his emissary still employed at the Department of Defense and communicating with Iranian officials?
Cash, can you hang on for 1 second?